So today we'll take a look at a few patching techniques we can learn from the Make Noise Maths Eurorack module, and we will do this in VCV with the Integral Flux module, which is very much inspired by maths. I added the ideas from this video to the PDF of VCV tips and tricks I keep on updating. It's available on my Patreon together with the patch file from this video and lots of other exclusive content. So probably the most known technique with maths is the bouncing ball patch. I have here a VCO going through a VCA, and I will use the right function to control the VCA. I will use this output here, the unity output, that will output the envelope without any attenuation. Now if I set this function to loop, we have a looping envelope that we can of course change the speed of, for example with the sync control, which is similar to fall or release. And now we can use the left function to control the speed of this second function by first of all looping it and then sending it to the sync CV input. Now I'm going to use the first output here, you see the variable output, because here we have also built-in attenuation. So I will send this to the sync CV input, and then I can play with the attenuation and the envelope time. So again, I'm going to set this to loop and then change the envelope times, maybe make it even linear, right? And then open the attenuation. And we have this bouncing effect. Now I will turn off the looping for both envelopes, and I will use an external signal to trigger the left function. I have here push from VCV, and since the rise or the attack, or in this case it's called the surge of this envelope, is very short, but the fall or release is longer, I can use the end of release output to trigger the looping or to gate the looping on the right function. So we have a beginning and an end to this bouncing ball, right? So this will go and will activate the loop, and now I can trigger it. And we have this effect. Another thing we can do is send this looping envelope through another VCA, and then use again the first function to control this second VCA, so we get also changes in level. In this case, again, I will use this output here, the unity output, that will output the envelope without any attenuation. So now the sound will also fade out. And of course, we can use this in multiple ways in a patch. Here I have dark energy, and I'm using the bouncing ball end of cycle output to trigger random changes in notes, right, with a random value generator. So with each cycle of the function, we get a new note. And I'm also using the envelope, the first envelope here, to control various things. First of all, the level. I'm using here echo as a delay, so I'm using the gain control to fade out the sound, and I'm also using this envelope to control various aspects of the sound on dark energy. First of all, the envelope, so the quicker the bounces, the shorter the envelope, and also the timbre. Again, the quicker the bounces, the darker the sound will become. Now we can also change the notes per bounce. So here I have the same idea, but instead of using the end of cycle to trigger the changes in notes, I'm using the end of release of the first function. So only with each new bounce, the notes will change. The voice itself that I have here, I have the Pony VCO. Again, I'm using the envelopes to control timbre and level. can even have the bounce inverted. So here I have it slowed down instead of speeding up, right? And I'm using this with a sort of a hi-hat sound, white noise going through a bandpass filter, right? So now the envelope will make the sound speed up instead of, slow down instead of speed up. Right, in this case I'm also triggering it with a sequencer, so we have a sort of a repetitive rhythm. Another way of using maths is by using it to clock and sequence various modules with different variations of a clock. For example, we can use it as a wonky clock source. Here I have the PGMR sequencer from Bogue Audio, which will sequence the XM operator. And I'm using here the end of cycle output of the right function as the clock source. So if I set this to loop, right now we have a steady clock. But I can use the other two rows of the sequencer to sequence the sync and surge or rise and fall and create a wonky rhythm. Right, it will speed up, it will slow down. We can also create ratcheting. Here I have a steady rhythm with kick all. Right, I'm using here the clock to trigger or to activate the looping of the right function. Again, I'm using the end of cycle as a trigger source, as a clock source. And I have the timing set that we get only one hit per clock. But if I change the envelope, I can get also ratcheting. Right, and then with another sequencer I can sequence this via, in this case, the both input, which will control both the surge and the sync. I have here the ADDR for this. This is also very useful for so-called exponential rhythms. I have here a kick that I'm triggering with the right function. Right, and I'm modulating the envelope times, in this case with slow, smooth, random voltage, so we get so-called exponential rhythms. I do the same also with the left function and a hi-hat, again modulating it. In this case the hi-hat goes through a short delay and a filter. You can also create a weird clock divider. Here I have two FM operators. I'm already triggering both functions with the clock multiplication of 4. So I will use once the end of rise output. Right, and now with the envelope times I can divide the clock and even create weird rhythms. Right, the same with the right function, I can use the end of cycle. Maybe make this linear. Maths, Rampage, and other so-called function generators are actually slew limiters, so they can shape the incoming signal over time. Here I have a bass drone with a classic VCO. I have it going through two filters as a stereo voice. And I have here a gate sequencer. This is the octet sequencer from Count Modula that I will use as a modulation source to have rhythmic modulation. So I will send both sequences to the signal input of Integral Flux, right? Not to the trigger input, but to the signal inputs. Right, you can see on the scope for now they are still just gates, but I can now change their shape. I can slew them or add slew limiting to them with the envelope time. So for example, I can have one with a longer attack, right, or with a smooth attack. And then the second one, maybe we can have it linear. Right, so now we get something smoother. And of course we can control this with voltage. Here I have a pitch sequence with a step sequence sequencing the VCV VCO. I'm using here also a wave folder and a filter to add some movement, and I'm sending the pitch again through the signal input of Integral Flux. Right, and now I can sequence the rise and fall or surge and sink to get glide or portamento only on specific steps. So I have here two more sequences. And slew limiters are also great envelope followers. So here I have a drum loop. Let me solo this. Right, and again, also here I have it going to the signal input of the left function, and now with the fall or the sync control, I can slew the audio and get the amplitude envelope of this loop. You can see this also on the scope. Right, so now we get the amplitude envelope of the drums, and this will eventually control the level of the chord that I have here with the wavetable VCO. Right, if I mute the drums, you can hear the rhythm of the drums playing this wavetable. Now we have two cycling signals, which means that we have two oscillating signals, which means that we have a complex oscillator. And by oscillator, I don't just mean as an audio source. This can be an interesting complex modulation source. Here I have a chord with palette. And this modulation source will eventually control the filter. Right now I have already both functions set to cycle or to oscillate, right? And we have a few additional outputs we can use. For example, we have the sum output. This will sum both functions or everything that we want to mix together. Right, so this I will send to the scope for now. And now I can bring in the left function, right, with the attenuator here. And then sum it together with the right function, or even invert it. Again, we have attenuators here. Right, and we have a complex modulation source. I will add some delay to this. Now you can also use the additional outputs with external signals. So here I have the octaves VCO and dark energy. I'm using the two additional inputs here on Integral Flux. right? So I can use them to mix the signals, and in this case I'm using the OR output. Now this is analog logic, so it's analog OR. It works with continuous signals, unlike Boolean logic or digital logic that works with gates and triggers. Right, so this is the wave shape we are getting. And of course we can bring also the functions themselves to audio rates. So here again I have both functions set to cycle or again oscillate, right? And I'm using in this case again the sum output to have a mix or a sum of both. You can see this again on the scope. By the way, if nothing is connected to the additional inputs, you can use them as offset, right? So I'm offsetting this wave to be bipolar. And now we can even sequence the function. So I'm going to sequence the right one via, again, the both input, which will affect both the rise and fall at the same time. We can also create subharmonics. Here I'm sending a triangle wave to the trigger input, so triggering integral flux at audio rates. Let me solo this. Right, and now with the rise or with the surge, I can create wonky subharmonics. And of course we can also modulate this. Again, add some delay. Another fun way of using integral flux is as a wave shaper. So here I have a pulse wave going again to the signal input, and I'm using the unity output. You can see this also on the scope. And now with the surge and sync, I can shape the sound. And again, we have voltage control over this, so I can use chaotic modulation and even attenuate the signal, again with the built-in attenuation or attenuversion even, right? So I'm using two signals, and then from there to the modulation, CV inputs, and then attenuating the signal a bit. We'll use the third output here to modulate the pulse width also a bit. Now we can even use this as a sort of a filter VCA combo. Here I have a saw wave going again through integral flux, sequenced by slips. Now if I change both the surge and sync together, we get a sort of a VCA filter going on. I will do this now with the offset just to show you this. It will go to the both input. By the way, this input is inverted. Right, so we have a sort of a filter effect. Right, and now what I will do, I will control this with the right function, so I will set this to loop, right? Send this first of all through some attenuation, or I will just use the dedicated output here. Right, and now we have more movement. Right, I can even modulate the sync with the sequencer to get even more movement. Right, Right, I can even offset this, so if I use the sum output, I can offset this with the other attenuators when nothing is connected. Right, again add some delay to this. We can also get fun distortion, so here I have a drum loop, again going through the signal inputs, in this case both signal inputs, I want this in stereo. Right, and now from the end of cycle outputs we will get gates, right, which will basically distort the sound, and I'm using again both of them because I want a stereo signal. Just for fun, I have both envelopes here modulating each other. They are both set to loop. I have some random modulation as well. Lots of delay. And I'm sure there are 1,000 more things to try with this module. I hope you will go and explore it further. And thank you for watching. Come join us on Patreon. Cheers.